And she said, Mommy, you and Daddy argue every day. Can you please make it stop?
Welcome to Truth Bombs and Tantrums, Marriage Real Talk, the podcast for battle-weary wives and couples who know love is beautiful and sometimes combustible. I'm Donna DiDomenico, back again as your guest host, interviewing Veronica L. Nabizadeh, a marriage coach, non-litigating attorney, and real-life wife who came close to the edge of walking away from her marriage and chose something different. Last episode, Veronica introduced us to the 7 relationship saboteurs and helped us understand why so many couples keep having the same damn argument time after time after time. But that's only half the trouble. Today, we are going to talk about what to do in the moment when your heart is pounding, your defenses are up, and you're about 3 seconds away from blowing up your marriage. That's where Veronica's signature level tool comes in. Stop, drop, and roll, baby isn't just a catchy name. It's the exact process she used to stop the cycle of escalation in her own marriage. And the same practical tools she now teaches her battle-weary wives and couples. If you've ever wished there was a fire extinguisher for marital conflict or a way to stop an argument before it turns into emotional arson, this episode is for you. So grab your coffee and let's get into it. Hello, Veronica.
Hi, Donna. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction to what we're talking about today. It's so important, and you did such a lovely job. I love you, and
Oh,
thank you
thank
for
you.
doing this.
Thank you. Thank you. Sometimes I feel like my tongue gets stuck, Veronica. I
It's a
have to really
lot.
keep focus. Yeah.
You're doing great.
So,
I just can't thank you enough for guest hosting. Thank you so
oh,
much.
thank you. It's an honor. So before we get into the technique itself, though,
Mhm.
Veronica, I've got to have you tell us some background on Stop, Drop, and Roll, Baby. Tell us about, how did it come into existence? What was the whole foundation behind it?
It's such an important question because you grew up in the United States in the 70s, did you? Yeah.
Yes, that was
Okay.
one of my decades. Yep.
Well, it's important because it came from that 1974 public safety issue, this a campaign to save our children. They
Mhm.
their pajamas, their toys, their blankets, their curtains, everything was so flammable. Our children were dying from being caught on fire. So
Mhm.
the fire safety, uh, the firefighters would come into the elementary school, like, they'd come barreling in with their hoses and their helmets and their jackets, and they would talk to our children. That's how important it was. And they would say, hey, step one, when you're caught on fire, stop what you're doing. And then, the knee-jerk reaction is to fan, or run around, to try to extinguish the flames, but it doesn't work. It actually makes it worse. So they said, stop and stand still when you're caught on fire. And the second step is they taught them, now you're going to drop to the floor, because if you stay standing, you're going to smell the smoke and you're going to die of smoke inhalation. So drop to the floor. And then the third step is to roll onto a carpet or a blanket to extinguish the flames. And that works when couples are on fire too. And that's where it
Wow.
came from. Mhm.
Yeah, no, that's great because I do remember that.
Yeah.
And I remember being taught that. And, we even practiced it. So when did you actually turn Stop, Drop, and Roll, Baby into a fire extinguisher for couples?
Well, it was um it was a long time ago when my daughter Cara was 4 at the time. And Sharyar and I were having a big heated argument, and he left. And I was standing there, seeing red and just angry that he left. And I had all this cortisol just dumping through me. And the next thing I feel is, someone tugging at my sleeve. And I looked down at Cara and I saw her eyes all welled up with tears. And she said,
Oh,
Mommy, you and Daddy argue every day. Can you please make it stop? And in that moment, I was still seeing red, and it's like in that moment, I had to stop all of that, uh, the disbelief that I have so much anger that she's standing here in front of me, begging me to make the arguing stop. But I did. I stopped, and in that moment, I just fell to my knees and I clutched her to my chest, and I realized I wasn't just failing as a wife, I was failing to keep her safe and experience peace in her home. And so I made a vow in that moment that no matter what, I would stop. I would stop arguing back. I would stop any escalation of anything. I would take radical responsibility because it takes two to fight. And I did not want, so that vow was the origination of Stop, Drop, and Roll.
wow, that's amazing. And I know how that must have felt for you because, first off for kids, right? And then they're looking at you and you're thinking that you're just processing the trauma of everything inside of yourself. But then you see that poor innocent bystander there saying, well, stop it for me too, right? And
Yes, yes.
yeah.
And it was like, it wasn't just, it was, I had to get myself to downshift in that moment with all this fire within me. I was still so angry. And to see her begging me, it was really hard, but it was the only thing I knew to do from that moment forward.
And so, Veronica, I think most of us think that our arguments start with words. But actually, you talk about in your book, Don't Throw the Towel In Yet. There it is. I love it. Just love that book and its cover. And but you talk about in your book that it actually starts much much sooner than that. It starts between your brain and your nervous system. Tell me physiologically what happens? What's going on there? So something's triggering you? Is that the crux of it?
Absolutely. When our brain and when our nervous system perceives a threat, it instantly starts dumping cortisol through our system. And that cortisol is the stress hormone, which immediately takes us out from the prefrontal cortex where our rational relational mind is, and it puts us back into the subcortical area where the limbic system and the amygdala are. And that is where the fight, or flight responses, and that's also where all your pain history is stored. And
Hmm.
so in that moment, the cortisol sends you there the moment you start flooding. And that's what happens. And when it's flooding, you're in that part of your brain that makes you self-protect. And that's when those seven relationship saboteurs come online and they start getting launched. And so that's where you're no longer in your right mind. That's, how you hear people say,
Yeah.
I wasn't in my right mind. They really weren't. They were in that amygdala and they were in a fight or flight or freeze response.
Right. Okay. All right. And so then what we're going to go into next is stop, drop, and roll, baby,
Hmm.
through the steps. And you'll talk about how those actually protect us from being triggered, right?
Hmm.
Like from and having those same repetitive arguments, because it's a technique that you've come up with
Hmm.
and that you work with your couples or your battle wearied wives on that really gets them out of this repetitiveness
Hmm.
of arguing all the time. So
Hmm.
let's go into stop. Tell us about stop.
Well, stop is the first step. And when I say first, I also mean it's the hardest step because everything, when cortisol is dumping through your body, everything in you wants to do something. It wants to launch a relationship saboteur. It wants to be right. It wants to win. It wants to be heard or understood. Stopping in that moment means exactly that. Stop talking. Stop the cortisol from flooding. Stop the reaction. And what you're doing is you're creating space from trigger to response. And that's the first step.
Wow. Okay. So you just stop.
You
You
stop.
don't react.
Yeah. And I tell my wives because everything about you in that moment wants to do something. It wants to self-protect. It wants to say something. And even
Right.
if it's not, maybe it wants to say, or maybe just collapses into shame, it's still a reaction that's not relational. So with my angry wives, I tell them, stop, put your hand to your mouth and stop talking, literally. And it's something that you can do in the moment. So a couple times I would be and just, controlling myself that
Yeah.
way.
Pulling yourself away from there. Just,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
hear you. I hear you. So then what happens next with drop?
So drop is the second step. You're going to drop out of the battle zone. What's the battle zone? Wherever your partner is, go somewhere else where you can get centered. You're dropping any launching of any seven relationship saboteur. You're dropping the need to be right. You're dropping all of that, and you're getting yourself to a place of safety where you can be with yourself and be away from the battle zone.
That's nice. So that I know that's hard, right? I know for me that would be hard too, like to actually move away from it because man, you have so many good things you want to say.
Yeah. And for me, it
But
was really hard because my flavor of reaction was angrily pursue, like, wait, 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 come back here. I need to, so I had to
mhm.
stop and drop all of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then let's move into roll.
So the third step is to roll, and you're going to roll into self-care and self-love, and you're going to be nice to yourself while you're doing it. And so the first thing is I tell my wives and my couples, put your hand to your chest. It stimulates the oxytocin, the feel-good hormone. You want to like help your body out because it's the container of all that stress hormone. So I also tell them start breathing, breathing,
Mhm.
following your breath. And when you're sitting there, be nice to yourself. And they'll say, "Well, what does that mean?" Well, don't judge yourself for being flooded right now. Don't judge your partner for being in self-protection or doing something that was triggering to you. Just be with your body as it's processing whatever emotion that came up for you. So I tell them to notice their feelings, name their feelings, and breathe love into that area in their body where their feelings are being or where does your anger live, where does your fear live, and just breathe love into that moment and be with yourself until you can feel your back centered, and you'll feel it, your body, your breath returns to normal. You're not shallow breathing, and you feel better, and it doesn't take long. I also tell them, when you turn inwards and focus on your breath, and you focus with all your attention, you're stopping the feedback loop because thoughts form feelings and feelings feed thoughts. So if you can focus all of your attention on your breath, you're no longer feeding and fueling those thoughts. And that allows you to get centered again. So the role is
Yeah.
so important.
Yeah. I think there's a couple things that really stood out there. The hand to your heart kind. I mean, it's an easy gesture to make, but
Mhm,
it's such an impact, right? And then the other part is that self-care component, but
mhm.
you're not necessarily talking about self-care. It could be whatever makes you feel good, go out, get your nails done, or whatever. But you're really talking about going internally and making yourself feel good just by recognizing who you are and what you're feeling. Am
That's right.
I correct? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's not the same. Like some wives will say, well, isn't that like, aren't I avoiding, like, aren't I being emotionally avoidant? And I'm like, no, when you drop out of the battle zone and you're with yourself as you're processing these feelings, you're emotionally regulating. You're not emotionally avoiding. And that's really key, to be with yourself and to be with your body lovingly, holding yourself in warm regard, looking at yourself nicely and warmly, while it's processing maybe this rage, maybe this hatred, maybe this frustration, disappointment, grief, just being nice to yourself. That is actually being present and very responsible because nobody else can do that for you. No one's,
Hmm.
if your partner is also activated, they cannot in that moment co-regulate with you. It's our job to regulate ourselves first and speak from that regulated place.
Yeah, that's great. Well, can you walk us through a real life example, maybe, of the
Yeah,
technique?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I had a client, let's call her Shirley. She came to me and she said, um, I feel like my husband is my kryptonite. I at work, I'm a good leader, I'm a good boss, I'm a good neighbor, but my husband just instantly triggers me and I don't know who I am at that moment. If only he would stop doing this. If only he would do this, I would be okay. I would feel better. So she was had no idea that she was an angry victim. So I helped her stop. And we went through that whole process. How stop and notice what comes up to you when this happens. When this trigger happens, what comes up to you? And she found in her body where it felt. It started in her stomach. Okay, so I'm like, that's your tell. When it starts in your stomach, that's your tell that cortisol is flooding your system and you're leaving your prefrontal cortex and you're going into that primordial part of your brain that wants to fight, or freeze. And when you're in that part of your brain, it is anti-relational. There is no wanting to be connected. It's just all you're looking at your partner as the enemy. The second step is she dropped out of the battle zone. She would go to the bathroom, turn on the shower, rinse her face, throw some cold water on her face, and she would put her hand to her chest and she would start breathing. And I asked her, look at your phone, turn on the stopwatch. You just focus on that because it was hard for her to focus on her breath. So she needed something outside of herself to focus on. So just focus on the stopwatch and just be breathing. And she noticed that within 60 seconds, poof, she's like, oh my God, I my heartbeat has returned to normal. I'm not angry. Like it really shocked her, and she felt empowered. Like she was afraid to feel this anger and to feel this rage and to feel this hatred because she would judge herself so harshly. And then she would also take that to her husband. But when she was able to stay with herself lovingly while her body processed and these feelings and return herself back to centeredness, that was very empowering to her.
Wow. That really is. It's great. And the fact that, even focusing, like you said, on a stopwatch, or just counting the time is a good way because it's taking your mind away from that trigger
Yeah,
and puts you in a whole different place. I
yeah,
love that.
yeah. It takes away that loop. It gets you out of the loop and it's disrupting the pattern.
Yeah. So, Veronica, one thing I hear all the time is, yeah, but if I don't say something right now, nothing will change. Everything will just stay exactly the same if I don't make my points. What would you say to a battle weary wife that is saying that to you right now? What would you advise them to do with stop, drop, and roll and how it can help them?
I would ask them, has it worked? Staying in the conflict, speaking from that part of your brain that's absolutely anti-relational, has that worked? Let's talk about workable solutions here. No, it's never worked.
Uh-huh.
So it's your job to get yourself. That's the radical responsibility that I talked about in the episode too. It's your job to, if you are activated, it's not your partner's job to regulate you. It's your job to regulate yourself and speak from that place of centeredness. So that's what I would tell her. Stop, drop, and roll is to help you have that clarity. It's to help you be centered and to speak from that place.
I love that. Yeah. So this is all great stuff. What's been the most surprising transformation for you from battle weary wife who's used this technique consistently?
It's self-trust. So many of my wives come to me and they feel disillusioned. Like, is it me? Am I crazy? Is it them? When they start using stop, drop, and roll baby, they feel centered. They're connected to their innate emotional intelligence. They have clarity, and that's the biggest change.
And so I'm sure you've seen a lot of success with a lot of people. And at this point, what do you feel is really kind of the driver?
It's like, are you saying it starts with you? Is that what you
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
it's true because couples don't know that they are marrying their unfinished business. They don't know that after the honeymoon period, there is a series of triggers and activations, and then both of them are in that part of their brain that's fight, flight, or freeze. And
Yeah,
that loop just stays on. And if you have work and you have children, that crazy loop can be on repeat for decades. And so it does start with you that I needed to stop escalating the arguing. I can't change my husband. I can't control what he does or doesn't do, but I can control my own emotional regulation. And I can speak from that part of my brain that wants to be relational, that wants to be rational. And that's only I'm the only one that can do that.
hmm, yeah. And you're the only one who can make you happy. You're the
Mm-hmm.
only one who can make you, be joyful, excited, any of those emotions that come up. You're the only one that can really control them,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what direction they go in. So any final comment like of today's we discussed, it was an amazing podcast today. But any point you want to emphasize before we end today?
Yes, I want to speak to every battle weary wife out there and any couple that's listening. If you want to experience more peace and harmony in your marriage, all you have to do is stop, drop, and roll, baby. It's a three-step process, and it will change your life and your relationship.
Yeah. And I just love the whole simplicity behind it. Veronica, you have a knack for taking some things that have been driven over and over and over again for years and years and years and bringing it down to kind of the simple basics of a technique that is so easy to do. Maybe not the first time. Yes, it's hard to stop and then drop and roll, but practice makes perfect.
Absolutely. And for me, I was motivated thinking about my daughter's teary-eyed face, and I loved my husband, and I wanted to be a woman that could emotionally regulate herself and could take radical responsibility for herself and role model that to my daughter. That was
Yeah,
important to me. So yeah,
that's great.
thank you. Yeah, thank you. It's not easy, but it works.
Yeah. And then Kara can also use that in other aspects of her life as well, right? Anytime.
Oh,
I mean, it's just an
absolutely.
ongoing life tool. So you
Right.
are arming her for her future, and that's great.
Stop, drop, and roll. Like I went and spoke to the local business center here for women, and it works in business. It's really helping you connect with your innate emotional intelligence and your own knowingness. And
Hmm.
when we do that, we act from a place of clarity and confidence. And that
Yeah,
really is it. Like you say, it starts with us. And it
right.
works with every relationship, whether it's your partner, your kids, your neighbors, or at work.
Well, Veronica, as always, it's an honor to be with you. It has been such a great episode today. I really love this technique, and I look forward to using it in a lot of the coaching work that I do. So thank you so much. Honored to be with you again.
Oh my God, that's so incredible. Donna, that just makes my heart sing. And I am so grateful and appreciative to you. But I would like to turn the spotlight onto you. And I would love for you to talk about your book. Donna is an author of an amazing book called Be the Difference Now. And I'd love for you to talk about it and where to find it and all that stuff.
Okay. So this is the book, Be the Difference Now. And it's out on the market. You can find it on Amazon, any of the bookstore websites. It's there for you to purchase. It's also an audio, so you can get ebook, audio, or hard copy book. And I'm really excited about it. It takes a lot of the years of my experiences in executive leadership and brings it to the leaders of the future. And so, in so many ways, Veronica, I have used Stop, Drop, and Roll Baby without knowing that I was using Stop, Drop, and Roll Baby with the executives to say to them, you know, you gotta learn to walk away from some things and just, be able to bring yourself back to the present and not get into arguments in leadership. And it's all about leaders for the future to give away the old kind of systems of divide and conquer and command the control and move into a much more empowering type of relationship with people, employees that are following you and are looking to you to guide them into the future. There's no reason we can't all work and be happy at the same time. And so it really builds into that and building the cultures that will make businesses successful in the future.
Oh man, that is incredible. We need more empowering empathic leaders, who are willing to
Yeah.
take that radical responsibility and do what's right for the greater good. And I love that innately you were using Stop, Drop, and Roll Baby when you were helping your executives and leaders lead a different way. That is incredible.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, folks, this brings us to the end of our episode 3. And I would love to again thank my dear friend Donna DiDomenico. I would love for you to check out her book. I will make sure I have everything listed in the show notes. Be the Difference Now. It's available in your favorite bookstore. And also it's an audio book. If this episode hit home for you, please share it with a friend who might be struggling in their marriage too. And make sure you're subscribed. And if you have a minute, I would love to have a review or a comment. And my name is Veronica L. Nabizadeh. This has been Truth Bombs and Tantrums, the Marriage Real Talk podcast. And until the next time, don't fake fine, don't go quiet. And for the love of all that's sacred, don't throw in the towel yet, because if it's worth fighting about, it's worth fixing. Thank you so much. And Donna, thank you so much for being a guest host. You are just amazing.
Thank you, Veronica. I feel the same about you.